This is World News coming to you live from Algiers. I'm Maritime, and these are your top stories. In his first statement, Iran's supreme leader Mujtaba Khamenei stresses continuing attacks on U.S. bases. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launches a new wave of missiles against Israel, while U.S. President Donald Trump says the war must be won quickly. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced the targeting of Zionist American sites in the region. Tehran says it is investigating the Salalah port incident in Oman, dubbing it suspicious, whereas Italy announces its military base in Iraqi Kurdistan was targeted by a missile attack. In Lebanon, the Zionist army threatens to evacuate additional areas north of the Litani River. Several martyrs and wounded in Zionist raids south of the country, and Hezbollah targets Zionist military bases in the occupied Palestinian territories. First, in our news, in his first official message since being elected, Iran's new supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei, said Iran is compelled to continue targeting U.S. bases in the region. He recommended disabling those bases, claiming Iranian citizens were targeted and killed from them. Khamenei also noted that Iran shares borders with 15 countries and stressed Tehran's desire to build constructive relations with its neighbors.
As we had given an explicit warning and without carrying out any aggression against those regional countries, we remain committed to the necessity of friendship between ourselves and those neighbors, and we have merely targeted those U.S. bases. From now on, we will also be compelled to continue this action.
Mujtaba Khamenei said Iran has thwarted attempts to divide the country, adding that Iranian forces blocked the enemy with powerful strikes.
Our fighters blocked the enemy's path with their powerful strikes and removed it from the illusion of controlling this homeland or even dividing it. The will of the masses of the people is to continue effective and deterrent defense. The influential presence in the arena must be maintained through what you have shown these days and nights of war, or through active roles on the battlefields.
Iran's supreme leader Mujtaba Khamenei also called on regional countries to clarify their positions toward what he described as aggressors responsible for killing Iranian citizens, adding that Tehran is fully ready to build friendly relations with all the neighboring states.
We share land or maritime borders with 15 neighboring countries and have always sought warm and constructive relations with all of them. These countries must clarify their stance toward the aggressors against our homeland and the killers of our people.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched the 42nd wave of True Promise 4 operations minutes after the first message delivered by the new supreme leader Mujtaba Khamenei. In a statement issued on Thursday, the IRGC said the wave included heavy Imad, Qadr, Khaybar, Shikan, and Fatah missiles along with suicide drones targeting U.S. military bases in deep areas of the Jaffa in the Palestinian occupied territories. The Iranian army said it targeted 2 Israeli military bases and the headquarters of the Shin Bet intelligence agency. In a statement issued on Thursday, the army said drones struck the control tower, runway and aircraft warehouse at Palmashim Air Base and Ovda Air Base, along with the Shin Bet headquarters in the occupied Palestinian territories. An official in Khuzestan province reported casualties after attacks on areas in Avaz, saying several civilians were killed and injured in strikes on residential buildings. Meanwhile, Tasnim news agency reported that an Israeli attack on Fardis in Al-Borz province using drones left one civilian dead and several others wounded. The spokesperson for Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ismail Baghai, said the enemy cannot start a war whenever it wants and then calls for a ceasefire at will. Baghai described U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran as acts of aggression, adding that the United States launched 2 attacks during the negotiation period and was constantly seeking pretexts for aggression.
This is an imposed war by the 2 bullying of the world. We have got our lessons. We have learned our lessons from the past experiences. And Iran could not afford to let them start a war whenever they want, to finish it whenever they want, and then restart it again. That would not be acceptable to Iranians. We have paid a high price for that. So I'm sure that these 2 experiences, these 2 very bad experiences would be borne in mind in the future.
The Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Ali Larijani, said that ending the war in the Middle East cannot be done through a few tweets. In a post on X platform, Larijani noted that Donald Trump said the war must be won, adding that starting wars is easy, but ending them is not. He vowed the U.S. would not be spared until it admits its mistake and pays the price, adding that confrontation will end only when the United States realizes it cannot attack the Iranian people.
The strikes launched by the Islamic Republic of Iran will continue, and we will not let them get away with it. They should never think that we will allow the Americans to resolve this issue quickly. They claim that they have struck and achieved their objective. This is untrue. The matter must be settled when they understand that they have no right to attack Iran, and they must also pay reparations to Iranian people.
The Speaker of Iran's parliament, Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf, said the U.S. claims it destroyed Iran's missile capabilities, explaining that the first wave of large-scale missile launches were meant to blind U.S. radar and defense systems. In a post on X platform, on Thursday, Ghalibaf stressed that Tehran can now strike any target it wants with fewer missiles, saying the Iron Dome has become massacred, as he put it. U.S. President Donald Trump said his country can strike Iran's critical facilities, but warned it would prevent rebuilding the country. In Thursday remarks, Trump stressed the need for the U.S. to win the war quickly and said Washington is closely monitoring the Strait of Hormuz, claiming it is in a very strong position.
Doing it very quickly, and then we'll fill it up. We'll fill up our reserves. You know, if you remember, I filled them up, and then I had a deal to go at the highest level, a level that's never been, and Schumer and the Democrats for $25, and it was turned down. You remember that, Peter. Almost before your time, but not quite. But it was, we had a deal at $25. Think of that, $25 a barrel, and the Democrats turned it down. We're going to tap it out like it's never been, but they turned that down, and now it's a lot higher.
And the UN Special Rapporteur on Counterterrorism and Human Rights, Ben Saul, has rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's justification for the war on Iran, warning that such a conflict could lead to greater instability. Ben Saul stressed that under international law, preemptive strikes are not legal unless an armed attack is imminent. He added that Iran has not taken any action suggesting an immediate threat and that bombing the country without such evidence would violate established rules of self-defense.
under international law, launching preemptive war to prevent another country acquiring a nuclear weapon or some other dangerous weapon is not lawful. We have very clear rules about self-defense. There must be an armed attack occurring or an armed attack must be imminent. Imminent means about to occur. There's some elasticity in that concept, of course, but it does not extend to bombing a country when they don't even have the weapon yet that you say you fear, let alone having made any decision to use it against any other country. You know, imminent means you've intercepted an order to the state's military to fire a weapon at some point in the very near future. We were a long way from that in Iran.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced targeting Zionists and U.S. sites across the Middle East. In a Thursday statement on Sepa News, it said its forces struck a U.S. gathering on Sheikh Zayed Street in Dubai, a U.S. site at Kuwait's Ahmed al-Jaber airport, mobile U.S. bases in Iraq, and Israeli positions in the occupied Palestinian territories. Omani security sources reported shooting down several drones while others hit fuel tanks at Salalah port with no human casualties. Authorities, according to the Oman news agency Thursday, said they continue monitoring and intercepting such threats to ensure the safety of facilities and citizens, with civil defense and emergency services containing fires and maintaining security. Iran called the incident at the Salalah port in Oman highly suspicious and said it is investigating it. The spokesman for Iran's Khatam al-Anbiya central headquarters, Colonel Zolfagari, emphasized that Iran respects Oman's security and sovereignty and maintains friendly neighborly relations.
The incident that occurred at the port of Salalah in our friendly and brotherly neighboring country Oman appears highly suspicious. The Islamic Republic of Iran is currently investigating this matter. The armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran respect the security and national sovereignty of Oman.
Italy's Ministry of Foreign Affairs reported a rocket attack on its military base in Erbil in Iraqi Kurdistan Wednesday night with no casualties. Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani condemned the attack in a post on X platform and said he contacted the Italian ambassador in Iraq to check on the troops who took shelter during the attack. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said Ankara rejects any plan to spark a civil war in Iran or fuel ethnic or religious conflicts, warning unmanned or unarmed parties against such scenarios. In a joint press conference with his German counterpart on Thursday, Fidan added that Turkey is in contact with the US and Iran to help end the Middle East war quickly, stressing that dialogue and negotiation are urgent.
We see that this time separatist scenarios are being put forward concerning Iran. We're completely opposed to any plan aimed at igniting a civil war in Iran or fueling conflicts or ethnic or sectarian grounds. We warn in advance any party that wishes to engage in such adventures. We agree with Germany that the war must stop immediately. Its impact on the international markets is already clear, as its impact on the region. The risk of its expansion remains. In this context, too, any issue should not involve compromising Iran's territorial integrity, nor should objectives such as regime change be pursued.
Iran accused the European Union of complicity in U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran. Let's have a listen. Received a breaking news, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has just announced that Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier was severely hit by drones and missiles, adding that it is on its way back to the U.S. after being targeted. And Russia called on the U.S. and the Zionist entity to stop attacks on Iran and join negotiations. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said Thursday that Russia will take steps to end Middle East escalation quickly and resolve disputes peacefully, noting that U.S. and Zionist military actions in Iran have killed thousands of civilians, according to authorities.
We are against the escalation. We don't want war. We want peace. We want our children to live in this country and secure their future in this country, so they can live. War leads nowhere except to destruction, devastation, and death. We don't want war, we want peace. Let them find a solution already and end this, because people are exhausted and worn out.
And the Iranian Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei called for using all available means to close the Strait of Hormuz. In his first address since election, Mojtaba Khamenei warned that if the current war persists, new battlefronts will be opened where the enemy lacks experience, as he put it.
Certainly, the leverage of blocking the Strait of Hormuz must continue to be used, and opening other fronts where the enemy is highly vulnerable. If the war continues, we'll be considerate while observing strategic interests.
And Iran's UN ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani said on Thursday that Tehran was not going to close the Strait of Hormuz. Amir Saeed Iravani noted that Iran has the legitimate right to maintain the safety and security of the waterway.
I said we are not going to close the Strait of Hormuz, but it is our inherent right to preserve the peace and security in this waterway, and it is our right.
And the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said it targeted a U.S. oil tanker in the Gulf region Thursday, mourning for failing to heed Iranian naval warnings. It also reported striking a U.S. tanker in the Strait of Hormuz flying the Marshall Islands flag, urging all ships to follow Iran's Strait of Hormuz transit regulations, in its words. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said the U.S. military is currently unable to escort oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz because all forces are focused on striking Iran. Wright told CNBC on Thursday that U.S. operations may likely resume escorting ships in the strait by month's end as military efforts target Iran's offensive capabilities and related industries.
It'll happen relatively soon, but it can't happen now. We're simply not ready. All of our military assets right now are focused on destroying Iran's offensive capabilities and the manufacturing industry that supplies their offensive capabilities.
Israeli forces issued warnings to residents north of the Litani River in southern Lebanon, claiming the area includes Hezbollah positions ahead of planned strikes. On Thursday, the forces urged civilians south of the Litani River to evacuate immediately and to move northward. At least 9 Lebanese were killed and several injured in an Israeli airstrike targeting civilians in Arki, Sidon district, southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Ministry of Health said Thursday that 4 of the dead were from the same family, and 7 others were hospitalized with injuries of varying severity. Hezbollah announced it targeted the air defense system around Kaisaria in the occupied Palestinian territories using what it called precision missiles. In a statement issued on Thursday, the group said this was in response to Israeli airstrikes on Lebanon, noting that the system protected the residence of the Israeli Prime Minister. Finally, hundreds of thousands of Lebanese, especially in the south, are facing severe humanitarian hardship due to renewed Israeli attacks, forcing them to flee north in search of temporary shelter from indiscriminate strikes on civilians. Usama Ayadi has more details.
Hundreds of thousands of Lebanese civilians have been forced to flee their homes in southern Lebanon as military attacks intensify, creating a growing humanitarian crisis. Families are leaving their towns and villages heading north in search of safety, but many are struggling to find adequate shelter. Displaced people describe the deep pain of being forced to abandon their homes and communities while hoping they will one day be able to return. Roads and streets in part of the south have been crowded with civilians moving towards safer areas, with many unsure where they will find refuge.
Regarding the
escalation that happened yesterday, it was a very major escalation that all the stations covering the crisis since the beginning have touched upon. I say to all the enemies, take a lesson from Gaza. They said they wanted to eliminate the resistance. And they tried by every means, burning children in hospitals, killing and terrorizing. Yet the resistance is still continuing. They are still here, and rockets are still being launched from behind them.
Temporary tents have appeared in several locations, offering limited protection from the harsh winter cold. These makeshift shelters have become the only refuge for many children, women, and elderly people who are driven from their homes by the ongoing violence.
We are against the escalation. We don't want war. We want peace. We want our children to live in this country and secure their future in this country, so they can live. War leads nowhere except to destruction, devastation, and death. We don't want war. We want peace. Let them find a solution already and end this, because people are exhausted and worn out.
As the wave of displacement continues to grow, large numbers of civilians are now sleeping on streets and roads or taking shelter wherever they can. Many remain exposed to difficult living conditions while the conflict and bombardment of the Zionist war machine persist.
The end of our newscast. See you in a bit in our special program.